Your electricity bill went up this year, you didn't run the air conditioning any more than usual, you didn't buy a single new thing that plugs in. But in some parts of the country, the average home is now paying about $18 more a month. And the reason isn't you, it's a building you will never be allowed to walk into. Right now, everyone is staring at the same question. Is the AI bubble going to pop? They're watching a stock chart like it's a heart monitor. Almost nobody says the next part out loud. Whether it pops or not, the bill has already been written, and your name is on it. You never bought a single share of any AI company. You didn't invest in a data center. You never agreed to any of this. But you're already paying for the boom. And if it busts, you're first in line to pay for that too. So let's follow the money, because it leads somewhere you don't expect. Door number 1 is the one you already walked through. It's your power bill. To understand it, you have to know what these AI companies are actually building. They're building data centers. Think giant windowless warehouses packed wall to wall with computers, running hot around the clock. And they are hungry for electricity. Today, America's data centers use about 80 gigawatts of power. By 2028, that's expected to nearly double to 150. That jump alone is like plugging in a whole extra country the size of Spain, in 3 years, onto the same grid that powers your house. Now here's the quiet part. When a data center needs that much power, someone has to upgrade the grid to carry it, and the rule in most places spreads that cost across everyone. Not the company that showed up needing a city's worth of electricity. You split evenly onto every bill on the block. In the country's biggest power market, that added over $9 billion in costs for a single stretch. For a home in parts of Maryland, it worked out to about $18 more every month. This isn't a theory. It got so bad that in 2026, New York put a freeze on new data center permits. New Jersey passed a law just to protect regular people's bills. So, before a single share is ever sold, before anyone says the word bubble, you're already an investor. You just get billed as a customer. Door number 2 is the strangest one. It's the machine that's paying for all of this, because the money behind the AI boom moves in a circle. In 2026 alone, the biggest tech companies plan to spend over $600 billion building this stuff. That's CapEx, the cash you pour into physical things, like chips and buildings and power. But here's the catch. They don't actually have all that money lying around. The bills are bigger than the profits coming in. So the money starts looping. One company invests billions in another. That second company uses the money to buy the first company's chips. It's called circular financing. A company hands cash to its own customer, and the customer hands it right back as a sale. The same dollar takes a lap and comes home. In 2026, the chip giant Nvidia was reported to be lining up to backstop hundreds of billions of dollars so one AI lab could keep buying its chips, money out one door, sales in the other. Circular financing isn't proof of a bubble, but it's a magnifier. If the real demand shows up, everyone wins big. If it doesn't, the whole circle unwinds at once. Now, that's $600 billion in spending. There's a gap of around $1.5 trillion between what they want to build and the cash they actually have. So they borrow it. But more and more, they don't borrow it out in the open. They move it into private credit, loans made outside the banks, tucked into structures that don't show up on the main books. Roughly $800 billion of this is financed that way, which means when you look at these companies, you can't actually see who's holding the risk. That's not an accident. The market's already twitchy. One big AI data center company saw the price of insuring its debt spike to levels that mean a near coin flip chance it can't pay, and its biggest bill is coming due soon. Notice what they've done. They've built the boom so the same dollars keep it spinning, and moved the risk somewhere you can't watch it. When it was a boom, it was theirs. Door number 3 is the one that's actually yours, because you might not own an AI stock on purpose, but you almost certainly own it by accident. If you have a retirement account, a 401k, odds are a big chunk sits in an index fund. That's just a bucket that quietly buys the 500 biggest American companies for you. It sounds spread out, 500 companies, but it isn't. A handful of giant tech names now make up about a third of that entire bucket. Put $1 into a standard index fund today, and around 40 cents of it flows into just 10 companies, the same companies pouring hundreds of billions into AI. So without ever choosing it, your retirement is making a giant, concentrated bet on the AI boom. If those names soar, your account soars. If they crack, so does the thing you were counting on for 30 years. And you're not the only quiet lender here. Remember that private credit, the loans hiding off the books? Ask yourself where that money comes from. It comes from pension funds, insurance companies, the retirement savings of teachers and nurses and firefighters, pooled up and quietly lent into data centers by names like Blackstone and Apollo. So the boom is being funded twice over with your money. Once through the fund with your name on it, and once through a pension you'll never see the inside of. You keep hearing that regular people missed out on AI. The truth is closer to the opposite. You were opted in, you just never got a vote. So what happens when a boom like this ends? We don't have to guess. We've watched this exact movie before. Rewind to the year 2000. Another world-changing technology, the internet, set off a building frenzy. Companies laid fiber optic cable across the whole country, sure the demand would show up. They laid over 80 million miles of it, and by 2001, less than 5% was actually switched on. They'd built 100 times more than the world could use. Then it popped. More than $2 trillion in value simply vanished. Over 500,000 people lost their jobs. And the investors who'd lent all that money, on a lot of those loans, they got about 20 cents back on the dollar. Much of it pension and retirement money. Sound familiar? Now look at today. Hundreds of billions in AI debt, $1.5 trillion funding gap capacity built on the bet that demand shows up. The same shape, drawn much bigger. So picture the day it turns. That warehouse on the edge of town, the one your power line runs to, goes quiet. The gold glow in its windows flickers out. And watch where the loss actually lands. Not on the people who built it, they sold near the top and moved the risk off their books long ago. It lands on the 401k, on the pension, on the worker who gets the layoff email, and on your power bill, which somehow still arrives after the lights go out. The building goes dark, the boom becomes a story on the news. But the meter on the side of your house keeps spinning, paying off a grid we upgraded for a warehouse that's now empty. So here's the real trick of it. When this technology was a boom, it belonged to them. The upside had names and faces and stock tickers. But when it turns into a bill, it belongs to you, and nobody had to ask. So the next time someone asks whether the AI bubble is going to pop, you'll know that's the wrong question. It was never really about if. It's about who's already paying while everyone argues about when. Look at your own bill this month. You're closer to the center of this than anyone told you.